The light is leaving us all. West Street, the shutters shut dark. The flowers flow and sing in the drift.
Current 93 are, or is, an English experimental music group who were formed in 1982 and are still going and centered around David Tibet. So at first they were a group, and then they morphed into more or less a solo project of David Tibet with collaborators. The music ranges from industrial and noise to folk. The subject matter is focused on mysticism, particularly Tibetan, Christian, and Thelemic mysteries, the writings of Aleister Crowley in particular. Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a review of the album The Light is Leaving Us All by Current 93, which was released in 2018. And this is a request review, so it was requested to be particularly for Halloween. So my hope is that this will actually be made available, published on Halloween. And this was at the request of a user called I Have No Quarrel With You, who is a most gracious and polite long-time contributor to the channel community here. They don't always agree with me, but they're always thoughtful and measured, and I appreciate you. It does mean that I've jumped this one up the queue a little bit to get this Halloween date. So if you're waiting for a request review and you've been tracking everything that's been going on and you think, oh no, I've been missed out, please don't think that. You're probably still on my list. Having said all that about the status, I just want to quickly say that this channel is actually almost entirely album reviews based on a list of albums that is a website called Claim Music, and they claim, so from amalgamating lists of various places, they have produced this list they claim to be the 3,000 greatest albums of all time. And this was, I'm using a snapshot that was made in 2019, so that's 6 years ago now. And I'm working my way through from number 3,000 all the way up to one, and I'm just over 1,000 of my way through, a third of the way through, and I hope I will get there. I seem to be still going, but occasionally I step off that list to do something else. One of those reasons is to do request reviews. So if you want to request a review, then the way to do that is to leave a comment on any of my videos with a clear request for a review, and I will. I should see it. YouTube have changed the way they give notifications to creators for comments, so I'm aware that very occasionally I do miss comments, but I should reply within a couple of days if I've seen your request for review, and I will let you know that I've seen it and added it to my list. I always say that I never absolutely guarantee that I'm going to review everything that has been requested. There are good reasons not to do so sometimes, and sometimes there are good reasons not to tell somebody why I'm not doing it. Let's get on to this album then. So I've called this weird folk in terms of genre. Apparently, David Tibet calls his music apocalyptic folk. I feel like you could also call it dark new age, and we'll get into why very soon. So mostly the musical backing here is gently kind of folk-like stuff with repeated instrumental passages, so loops that go around, maybe with little bits of different stuff on top. Sometimes it sounds so similar to the previous iteration. By iteration, I mean, a stretch of 4 bars, 8 bars, or something like that. Sometimes I wonder if it's been sampled and then just repeated, which is a thing that people do. And this is actually where my reference to the New Age stuff comes in. So I would say that it's actually quite like musically some of the new age musics of the 80s to 90s, which was music that was designed for meditative purposes. It was often quite empty and quite floaty and quite kind of folky, and often had elements of world music in it as well. But it was low concentration, almost ambient stuff, and a lot of this kind of rhythmic repetition of stuff. And the music here on this album reminds me of that quite a lot. There's occasionally kind of more solo elements going on off the top, some instruments. Uh, One of the interesting things about New Age music is that it did have a link with a thing called the New Age movement, but it wasn't necessarily a strong link to it. The New Age movement itself was a rise in interest in esoteric thought and certain branches of occultism. So this brings me to um, the fact that I know that the current 93 name is taken from the writings of Aleister Crowley, and apparently Tibet seems to be a big fan of Aleister Crowley. I don't know Crowley's work well enough to be able to comment on any connection with the lyrics on this album, uh, but I do feel the need to do a sidebar here. So, am I going to apologise? No, I'm not. I have lots of things, but I have a thing about anybody who says anything publicly has a responsibility to do so responsibly. And the bigger you are, and the bigger your voice is, the more responsible you are for the effects of what you say. So, if for example, you've got a big voice and lots of people hear you, it's probably irresponsible to suggest that people inject themselves with bleach. Um, so I feel the need to use my voice, no matter how small it is, and I can guarantee that it's not going to be over 100 people who watch this video. But I feel the need to say something, and the reason why I'm going on about this is because I'm going to say something about Aleister Crowley in particular. So I get that esoteric thought and occult things have this kind of certain dark glamour to them, often with a kind of promise of power and hidden knowledge. I get that there's a huge broad spectrum of stuff from the likes of Aleister Crowley through to paganism and Wicca and things like that. And you shouldn't necessarily lump them all together. So I just want to specifically talk about Aleister Crowley, and if anybody feels they're attracted to his teachings. By all accounts that I've come across, he was abusive and manipulative. His commune in Sicily was closed down because of abuses of power, and some of his followers suffered mental health problems as a result. His teachings include that people should dominate others by their will and complete irresponsibility of action. His law was do what you will is the whole of the law, which is an overturn of the Wiccan Rede, which is and it harm none, do what you will. Basically, he's saying uh, do anything you feel like there are. You have license to do anything. Um, so I'm just throwing that and back to the album. All right, apologies for the sidetrack there. So instruments here include this got interesting when I was reading the list. So things like, guitars, acoustic and electric guitars, violin, bagpipes, whistle, hurdy-gurdy, electric and acoustic pianos, theremin, are often a good thing to throw in. And then there's things that are listed that I'm curious about. So I don't know what a guzheng is, or a silent piano, or sleep keys, or bird lights, or ghost, or doppelganger guitars. And there's probably more in there. As I was saying, the music is it's very pastoral and mellow, but as the album progresses, it becomes quite menacing before easing off again. So it peaks in menace about three quarters of the way through, maybe slightly later than that, and then pulls back a little bit from that. Musically, the tracks are different, but mostly quite similar in this kind of new agey feel, and but weirder later on. Lyrically, it's kind of different to the music because it probably should be considered a continuum. So it's intoned spoken lyrics mostly. There's little bits of other things here and there and other voices coming in, but mostly this is, I assume, David Tibet speaking. And they're snatches and phrases. Some of them are very repeated, but with other things in between. And it's a pastiche of weirdness. So there's stuff about red houses and 1,000 witches and a dead policeman. But probably the two most repeated phrases are "the light is leaving us all," which morphs later in the album to "the light is leaving you all." So I don't know why the switch there. And then the birds are sweetly singing, but this becomes the birds are softly singing. The birds are all sorts of other things singing. So it snatches of pictures. Some of these are straightforward. So, like, "Far away the red barn burns, oh Rose, you are dead." Um, so, somewhat dark at times. And then there's some of it is more surreal, like "the assembly is killing time and the clock has slowed to sugar." And I kind of, it's kind of got a feel to it that, the clock has slowed to sugar. I can kind of feel maybe what it's going on here. It feels like I kept being reminded of Leonard Cohen and the way he approaches lyrics. So it felt like someone had got hold of Leonard Cohen's scribble book of ideas and then thrown all that stuff together. I actually have a suspicion that there's a lot more going on here that I don't understand and that I don't know. Um, I guess this content is menacing in parts. There's an obsession with death and burning and things like that. And I was, I think it was in my head that the request was that this was for Halloween, and so I was waiting for it to be scary, and or macabre, and maybe it is macabre, but I felt like the scariness didn't quite hit for me. And I think this is why. So his voice, I would say, is too high. And in the most part, he sounds quite, I'm going to use this word pastoral again, kind of folky. He's got a Southern English accent and sounds like he's almost smiling. He's one of those voices where he sounds a bit like he's doing this, as if he's trying not to smile at times. So he lacks the gravitas that it could have. For example, as a more extreme at the other end, if Christopher Lee did the speaking here, maybe that it's this juxtaposition that some people would find chilling, the fact that the voice doesn't quite match the lyrics. But I'm afraid it made me. It found I didn't take the menace seriously. I got more interested in why has he got these words? What's going on here? Why is this put together? So I found it more weird than menacing. But I did enjoy it, particularly in its weirdness. The backing music's nice, and then when it gets darker, it's quite interesting. And the idea of this kind of continuum of an almost flow of consciousness stuff being spoken is interesting too. It's an interesting approach to an album. So I can enjoy it for its weirdness and the mix of sweet and dark, but I think I was a bit disappointed by the depth of the darkness uh, given the background of David Tibet, and also given that this has been requested for Halloween. So sorry, I have no quarrel with you. I maybe didn't find it as scary as you were hoping I did, or maybe this is what you were expecting. I don't know what you were expecting, but of course, as you know, I'm always just going to give an honest opinion here. So that is what I think of this album. But I would be very interested in what anybody else thinks about this album. I suspect it's not a very well known album. I feel like I've heard the name David Tibet before I did this review, and I don't know where from. I kind of did a quick look for his name and another project that he's done's name to see if there's any reviews that I've already done that are connected with him, and couldn't find any. But maybe he's better known than I think. Uh, but if you don't know the album, go and have a listen, and then let us know what you think, please, by leaving a comment. But that's it from me for now.
From the beaks of the birds who are sweetly singing, the birds are calling for their sweet ship home. The Lord is on the storm, He is the storm, and deep in soft sea